Hey everyone, me Kevin here. So this last week has been particularly difficult for me, but I'm all about learning things and I want to share those thoughts and realizations and lessons with you because I think there are going to be things that, if you can avoid making these mistakes, are going to save you a lot of money and hopefully make you huge sums of money. So in this video, I'm going to talk about something that I believe is very important to both us and outsiders and everyone. There are going to be practical tips. There's going to be some big announcements towards the end, which I'm kind of excited about. So, all right, let's get into this. In order to get into this, it's going to take a little background, okay? When I first became a real estate agent in 2010, I dressed up in a suit every single day. I made sure my shoots were shining, my car was clean, everything I did was so professional to the point where when I went door knocking even in the summer in a full-on suit. Like, whatever I could do to appear like, damn, that guy is always ready to sell your house, no matter what time of the day it is. That was the impression I wanted to give off. I didn't drink in public, I wouldn't have fun in public, I probably wasn't fun, I wouldn't walk outside unless I was dressed in a suit, I wouldn't go to lunch with my family unless I was in a suit, and my car was perfect, and everything was perfectly parked or looked good. The papers inside my car better be clean and neat and organized just in case somebody walked by and looked inside, they didn't see a disaster. Every potential outward impression had to be perfect, and it was very, very stressful. In fact, it took me years to finally just put on like an Under Armour shirt and shorts and go to a lunch place. And of course, the first time I did that on a day, I'm like, I just want to wear cash clothing for once. I'm sure nobody will see me. Of course, a client walks up and goes, "Hey, Kevin, fancy seeing you here." And I'm just like, oh, kill me. It's just like terrible, right? Because really, when I didn't have the impression of being in a suit, it clearly meant that obviously, if I'm not in a suit, I'm not working. And obviously, if I'm not in work clothing, then how could I be professional? I must not be planning on going on any appointments. So not only does it mean you're not working now, but it probably means you're not working later or right before this, which means you're a lazy bum because it's, lunchtime and you're not working, right? So now you might think this sounds extreme, but quite frankly, it's the reality of the work or the world that we live in today. The way you see me now or whenever is what you assume I am like when I am off camera. That is the same thing that applies to me as a real estate agent. When you see me with a suit and everything super professional, you assume the same is true, that right before, right after you see me, that guy's probably in a suit, probably in an appointment somewhere working his ass off, right? Now, this becomes really important because if you're perceived as somebody who is lazy, who sleeps in, who takes naps, whether you do or do not, I mean, you are human, right? We are human after all, and we have to have balance in our lives. But whether you do or do not, when people think you're lazy and they have this impression, then they extrapolate that laziness. They assume you sleep in, take naps, play video games, drink during the day, drink at night, drink all the time, and you're just unproductive and potentially a loose cannon and a dead-end employer to work for. And this is very dangerous and it's very damaging. See, potential clients will believe in whatever you're selling or your business less, which means less money for you. Coworkers, employees, your boss, your friends could perceive you as someone who doesn't deserve their faith, that you don't have the ability to operate a business, grow a business, or build a massively successful company because you're a bum. Consider this, okay? And now I'm making this extreme example. This example here is not designed to say really anything about Elon Musk. It's just to use Elon Musk as an example, okay? Obviously, I'm not gonna be perfectly right because we don't know the answer, but he's actually really good. Think about this. He's really good at hiding certain things from us. Imagine what he's hiding. Well, humanity. Listen to this. If you believed right now that Elon Musk sleeps 8 hours a day, goes to dinners every day, goes to drinks with family and friends every day, at 6 o'clock after work is able to 420 it up every day, has parties, and spends more time on social media than he probably should, well then, if that's the way you knew Elon, you might think that, wow, he's a bum. He sleeps too much, he drinks too much, he eats too much, he smokes too much, whatever. What a loser. That's the impression that that person would then give off. Now, obviously, we expect the reality is different, but when we think of Elon, we think of those old stories of how he slept on the factory floor, how he slept, 3 hours just to get the factory off the line. People can do that, for some part of your life, but you can't do that your entire life long because then you just either die of cardiac arrest or heart attack or you burn out, right? Like, I have similar stories to that when I was 18 and 19 and 20 and really starting to grind, right? I don't have a factory, but the point is, the reality of Elon Musk's real work schedule is probably quite uninspiring and unimpressive. But the stories of the hard work of the past and the fact that we don't see Elon Musk out drinking and partying and all this stuff generally in public kind of makes us feel like, okay, well, his past is probably still true now. That guy's got to be a workaholic. He's got so many companies. Even though there are 100,000 plus employees, he's probably got so much to do. He's probably so freaking busy. Don't get me wrong. I still think he's a workaholic. He's always thinking about work and bringing more onto his plate rather than less, right? The impression is that Elon is always working. And no matter whether or not that is true or not, it is motivating for his employees. There's a reason why when you see Elon, he's always working. It's brilliant. It is a key lesson of this video. People assume that what you are doing now will extend to when they don't see you. So again, if every time people who worked for Elon saw him smoking weed and playing video games in the office instead of working, they'd probably not want to work for Tesla anymore. And so I'm going to announce some major changes, and I think I'm very excited about them. Some of them are kind of like sad because, like, seriously, this is the world we're in. But yeah, so I'm going to talk about some exciting changes, and I'm going to tell you some secrets and some real practical tips in just a moment. I'll also give you a little bit of a look inside sort of the day in the life of Kevin. But first, we've got a very important message from our sponsor. Thank you. Today's sponsor, Albert. I'm really excited about today's sponsor because I think they will help a lot of people out. Albert is free to sign up for and super easy to use. It is a bank account with no hidden fees. Traditional banks, quite frankly, are terrible. They charge ridiculous fees like $35 for overdraft protection or even a fee just to keep the account open. Albert doesn't charge these fees. In fact, Albert will spot you up to $250 whenever you need it, instantly. That's why I love Albert. Instead of trying to nickel and dime you on fees, they have your back. That way, if you are ever in a cash crunch, for example, you're at the gas station and you realize you just don't have money in your account, Albert's got your back and will spot you the money. Then you pay back the money with your next paycheck and you don't have to pay any interest. And they even give you cash back on their debit card. You can also get 5 to 20% cash back at popular stores like McDonald's, Walmart, and Starbucks. All you have to do is swipe your card and it will show up instantly in your account. Managing your finances can be difficult and stressful, but thankfully Albert has a team of financial experts they call geniuses that will look at your situation and help you come up with a plan and answer any questions that you have if you get stuck. For a limited time, when you open an account and connect a qualifying direct deposit, you'll get $150. Just make sure you use the link in the description down below to sign up for an account now and get that $150 when you connect a direct deposit. All right, so now let's talk briefly about me. Let me just give you an idea of kind of how I work. So generally I wake up between 5 and 5:20 in the morning every day. I try using the little sleep cycle app so it kind of wakes me up ideally between that time frame. I love that thing. I work about 12 hours from there, and then I'm dead. I do take an hour break to have a quick bite to eat, and then I go on a run. So I go on a run for about like 48 minutes. It's about like 4 to 5 miles. That means, so it's like a jog. It's not like I'm really trying to run a marathon here and run like super fast. I'm not really that fast. I probably average about 8 minutes miles, and then I try to go longer, whatever. This means I'm working roughly 8 hours a day, every day of the week, unless I'm on a personal vacation. And a lot of my work right now goes into reading and planning and research. That's because that's like, there's a reason when I do my live streams, I could talk about a lot of different things about what's going on in the market because I spend hours of time researching and reading, and I try to give you the summary of that. I also spend a lot of time planning because I've got like life-changing, massive businesses coming up that are really sort of my dream and vision of the future. And I'm so excited to launch those and announce those. And we've got some changes coming exactly for those, which is gonna be super fun. But see, here's the thing. While I spend 70, if you do 11 times 12, right, that's about, 11 hours a day times 7, that's about 77 hours a week of work, right? That's roughly twice the typical 40-hour work week, right? That doesn't mean people on salary don't do little brief things outside of work, like maybe 3 extra hours a week of emails or texts or whatever. That's just called life. That's having a job, right? But people who look outside of my life, who don't know me, they might look and say, wait a minute, Kevin says he works so much, but he lives in a basic house. He refuses to remodel his own house. He doesn't really have extravagant photos on social media with gold chains and watches and a fancy pool or spa. He doesn't even have a backyard. He doesn't even have a driveway. And this guy supposedly owns a bunch of real estate and is supposedly successful. See, but then it also gets worse, right? If you're local to me, it's like, oh, well, I saw Kevin the other day going out for dinner, and the next day I saw him going out bowling. And like, wait a minute, boring house, plays video games, goes out with family or friends, friends at night, and apparently and allegedly works out of a home. He's got his own studio in his home and then bought another home close by to have employees work out of, and he's been making less videos. Sounds to me like Kevin's just a lazy bum. Well, these things are things that have actually taught me massive lessons. And I'm really excited to share these. So the first lesson is, look, impressions matter. And this is how I started my business. You appear bigger than you are. Now, I'm a big fan of ultimate transparency on my channel, so I'm always really transparent on this channel. Like, I will tell you everything, and I'm gonna tell you about some cool plans coming up. But there's a reason why people buy planes, big homes, and big offices. It's because they want to appear successful. And having an office can matter. Working from home and COVID has really blurred this. It's kind of, in my opinion, built a lot of resentment amongst people, because it's like, even though somebody could be a really hard worker, if they see you having 1 minute of enjoyment, oh no, that implies you're always having enjoyment and therefore you're a lazy bum. And so if you want to appear successful, you probably have to separate that home life and friend life from work life. This is why when I was a real estate agent, it was always in the suit. When Kevin's not in a suit, it's when he's in a place nobody else is gonna see him, right? Because you are a human, you have family time, you go to the gym, you do things outside of work. If you only live to work, then what kind of life is that? It's gonna be a quite depressing life. When you're on your deathbed someday and it's like, wow, yeah, wish I worked more. Not. Now, I personally think this is very sad, because I do think that work from home is really cool because it helps us prevent spending money on frivolous things, like impressions. I personally don't think I need a waterfront home to show off how successful I am. I don't think I need, like, some crazy photographer to follow me around and take photos of all my jazz and all my glam to show all that crap off, because I consider myself a relatively frugal person. Now, I work hard, play hard, so when I travel, I like to spend money, but I don't like spending money on worthless things that I don't think matter. Like, I think we can effectively work extremely well out of a 2,500 square foot home that I bought, just like we could work out of a 2,500 square foot office if we had one. I really don't think there's much of a difference, except one is much closer to me and it's much more convenient. But this brings up one of the big changes that I'm going to make. I am going to acquire an office. I expect to acquire somewhere between a 4,000 to 5,000 square foot office for all of the companies that we're going to launch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build it out in a frugal way, but I'm going to have a real office. No more working from home, because working from home blurs that friend-family line, and it gives this impression that, oh, when Kevin's working, he just happens to be at home. Who knows? Maybe he's napping. Maybe he's playing Age of Empires or something, right? That doesn't work, because it creates misimpressions. We're going to create a professional company out of a professional office. And it's really sad to say this, because I think some of these things are frivolous, but it's the way things work now. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, and this is sort of another lesson, and I'm going to talk about sort of plans, is it's really critically important that you don't mix family, friends, and employees. Like, those things should not be mixed together. Most importantly, friends and employees. Because the reality is, if you unveil that, hey, yeah, I work a 77-hour work week, but then other times of the day, like in the evenings, I'm having fun, I'm going to dinner, I'm going bowling, I'm doing escape rooms, or I'm drinking or whatever, the impression is, wow, it seems like half the time Kevin's having fun and the other half maybe he's working, but because he's at home, we don't know. And so what's the impression that lasts? It's the impression that you're actually not working, which is really bad. And of course, people around you never consider the fact that maybe you spend tens of thousands of hours building a business and thinking and reading and researching to help expand that business, but oh well, that's impressions, right? What did we talk about with Elon Musk? If Elon Musk every single night had a drunk cyber rodeo party, people would assume that he's obviously not going to want to go from having that fun to hardcore work at 5:20 in the morning the next day, right? So those are really important things. It's all about those impressions. And impressions can create entitlement or resentment. And both of those things are very, very bad. Because if employees feel entitled and they feel like they're entitled to more money because the boss is having fun or having a balanced life, but I'm still in the grind phase of my life, that's bad. If people start then resenting that, then they're going to become unmotivated, unhappy, and they will either leave for somebody who gives them the right impressions, at least, who knows, expectations versus reality tend to be very funny, or they should be fired because they're sandbagging your company anyway. This is a really bad thing. And Ross Gerber, said this wonderful thing in an interview with me December 29th. You could just go meet Kevin Ross Gerber, look for the December 29th video when I had pink hair, and you'll see Ross Gerber about an hour and 8 minutes in to that video says, here's the thing, Kevin, when employees come work for me, I make sure to find people who are not entitled. And the way I do that is I tell them, you work for me for 6 months. 6 months. Prove to me how good you are. Prove to me how much value you can provide, and then I'll pay you more. And I don't know what that number is going to be. It depends on how hard you work. But then Ross Gerber goes on to say, when they come to me in 6 months, then we actually can sit down and have a real conversation. If they come to me in 2 months and they're like, hey, I've been working hard, where's my raise? You're fired. No, that's a little extreme, but that's what Ross Gerber said. And he was making this point that entitlement is so bad. So you gotta be careful with this, because remember, if you're an employee, your goal is to figure out, how can I make the company more money? How can I get the company to the next level? And then you get paid more. But unfortunately, some people have this impression that, well, in order for me to be motivated to work harder, I should be paid more. I've literally had people say that to my face. Well, if you paid me more, I would be more motivated, which is really ironic because that sort of attitude usually gets you paid less, not more, or fired, or you leave and go to a worse opportunity, like that. So impressions matter. We talked about employees. We talked about this image that unfortunately the world requires of us, which has really been blurred by COVID. Because look, you and I, we might like working from home, but damn, it could create some misimpressions, right? It's a problem. The other thing that I found, and I should note, well, I'll say that in a moment. Okay, the other thing that I found is that experience matters. Like when you're hiring people, I've always believed that it's entirely possible to hire people with zero skills, zero experience, and hard workers will mold themselves into exactly what you need. I believe that because when I was 18, I thought I could do anything. I'll work really, really hard. But every single year that I've gotten older, I look back and I'm like, man, I was an idiot at 29. Man, I was an idiot at 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, right? And it's just like every year I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, now I see the other sides more. I can communicate better. And I'm constantly learning. This is why I spend so much time thinking and researching and studying and try to figure out how can we do things better and more efficiently, and how can we make sure that there aren't disastrous misimpressions, right? So I believe that one of the things that I also like to do is I don't like to micromanage. I think that's really important. I like experienced, self-inspired people who could self-learn and find their own way to provide value to a company. Those are people who deserve to be promoted and really purposefully overpaid. And it's not to say that somebody's overpaid because they're just being overpaid and therefore they should feel guilty that they're overpaid. No, it's supposed to be an honorable thing. Like, you're being overpaid because we value you so much, right? That's so important. And I think that's something that like every 6 months an employee should have a conversation with their boss about. For example, when I worked at Jamba Juice and I was making $8 an hour and I'm like, hey, I've been here for 12 months now. Could we talk about, either more responsibilities? How can I, provide more value to the business? I've done, first of all, here are ways that I've already provided value to the business, but I'm ready to take on more responsibility. What can I do to make more money? And they're like, well, you're good right now. Here's a 5-cent raise. And I'm like, 12 months and a 5-cent raise, see ya. Right? Like I quit right away. This is the alternate of, let's say, if somebody came to me and they're like, hey, I'm making $90,000 right now. I want to provide a lot more value, and I think I've been providing value, and I want to make $125,000 now, for an example. And the boss is like, you know what, I value you. Absolutely, here you go. That's how things should be. Now, that doesn't mean that anybody who's making 90 right now is going to be able to jump to 125, but that's a way of providing or showing value, right? So I don't like micromanaging. I love people growing into this, but I'm going to change the type of people that I'm looking to hire. So now I'm looking to hire probably about 4 to 6 professionals to help me with my launch, in addition to hiring experienced board members. See, what we're launching is going to require board members who will probably get compensated essentially in like options for future equity, and then real professionals who can actually work on the team. And so we're going to need people with real construction experience. This doesn't mean they have to have like a licensed construction team right now. We just need a lot of construction experience, investment banking experience, marketing experience, sales experience, like serious professionals who are self-motivated and can get put into a situation and they're like, oh, I know exactly what to do next, and I'm motivated to do what to do next because I could see the future. Sometimes individuals with less experience don't necessarily see through short-term, misimpressions to be able to get to where we're heading. And so that's going to be another change that I'm going to make. But the third change that I'm going to make, so office, type of employees and misimpressions, is I'm going to move my studio out of my house. That way, I can finally separate work and family. And this has been a very big problem for me. I have always worked out of the home, even back when I was a real estate agent. And this creates a lot of anxiety for me because sometimes when I play at home with my children, because my home is also my office, I might be playing upstairs with the kids and then think, but I feel guilty. I should really go downstairs in the office and go film another video. Well, that sucks because now I'm anxious with my children when I should be happy with my children. Terrible problem, terrible feeling. So I'm going to move my entire studio. I haven't even completely finished this one right now. Like, I think my background looks terrible right now, and that's okay because it's actually still in progress of actually becoming what it actually will become. But I've paused that to solve other problems. Now if I move my studio to the office, and let's say I had like a transparent glass studio or whatever, you can always see that when I'm in that office, I'm going to outwork everyone in that office. And that's not to try to like brag that like, oh my gosh, Kevin's gonna, work harder than everybody else. It's just, I purposefully want to send the signal that when I work, I crush it. I work very efficiently, I get a lot of things done, and that's ultimately what everybody should try to do. That doesn't mean I'm perfect, doesn't mean I can't learn, but work. When you're in the office, you work. When you're out of the office, you don't work. You spend time with family and stop thinking about work. And so that is a really, really important work-life balance thing that I need to separate. I think the best solution for that is getting the heck out of my office, or out of my home office, getting into a real office, building a real company with real professionals and board members, people with experience, and surrounding myself with essentially a team of people where we could do whatever the HE double hockey sticks we want. And so I am so grateful for everything that I've learned over the last few weeks. I'm very, very excited about this. And ultimately, hopefully, you have learned something from the lessons of disastrous misimpressions.